Hello,
Hello.
what's up?
What's going on?
Before we bring in our special guests here, just wanted to go over a couple things. Trav, how you doing?
Great. Just having coffee.
Just coffee?
It's coffee life.
Cool. Yeah, so I wanted to just let everybody know that we were going to do that special discount code before we bring in Ryan over here.
Let it rip.
But
Yep.
we are going to do a 20% off of the infamous Sicario joggers.
Ooh. The 10-man style ones. Yep.
There we go. The 10-man camo Sicario jogger pants, exclusive 20% off.
I love the
You like
code.
that code?
Nice.
Yep. So everybody watching, this code will be active during the show. So head over there and grab some pants. Yeah. So wanted to bring in Ryan from X Factor.
Get him in here.
The head coach of San Antonio X Factor.
There he is.
Hey, there I am. Got my ball
What's
pit
up?
back out. Paw Patrol, just rocking it up here.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw the Sicario joggers come up, and I wanted to run downstairs, put mine on. Those are the most comfortable things ever. I just run around the house in those.
Then no one would be able to see you.
That's true. I'd be sliding. How's
Doing
it going?
yoga.
Good morning. Yeah.
Good morning, buddy. So no, we just wanted to break it up and have some special guests on, and you guys are like obviously like an awesome, friendly team, and you guys have had a ton of success, last season and just killing it up and down. So we want to bring you on here and get some of your thoughts on it and how last season went, and just give us a rundown from finally getting those big wins to the whole season championship and stuff.
Absolutely. So it was a good year. It's fun. 2020 is off to a weird start, but 2019 was good.
Yeah, we can just like scrub the whole Vegas thing and just start over.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be awesome if we could do that. Sorry, Ironman. That one's out there. That's a whole different. Y'all won the 2019 series. We're going straight to our 2020 series. This is the post-quarantine series now.
Yeah, this is nuts, dude. We talked about this last night. We're actually supposed to be getting in airplanes to come see you guys for practice next weekend for the next event.
Gosh, honestly, I feel like it's been like 3 lifetimes since Vegas, so I'm surprised. I figure like we've already missed like 3 events. This is it's been dragging.
I know, dude. Not cool.
Can you believe the 10-man was how many months ago?
I don't
January.
know. But when they had the event, I was like, man, I feel like we're not getting an off season. I was like, this is a little too soon. I didn't want to like really get back into it yet. I'm so glad we did.
Yeah.
I think that was a perfect off-season move. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. Lots of
we
stuff.
we don't get to practice all year round, so getting down to Florida for some paintball is like ideal for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I was like upset that they weren't going to do another 10-man until ICC, but honestly, probably would have gotten canceled anyway, so I'll take it.
Yeah, we're right on schedule right now.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, so obviously Travis asked you about, the big season you guys had last year. I mean, one of the questions that I had written down was just, you guys, it had been a long time since you guys had a win. So what do you think that like deciding factor was to get you over that hump? For the people that don't know, they won 2 events last year and the series.
Yeah, right? Definitely. It was a long road, a lot of heartbreak on the way. And I guess it was probably I guess I was just looking at last night. 2015, we went to the finals back to back in the very first 2 of the new NXL, the reincarnation. I was talking to Rainey about it last night. And so, they restarted, they started the NXL and went to the finals right away. And honestly, we had that one. We're up with 40 seconds left or something. And Keith Brown just put this nasty shot on Billy when he was hiding in the snake. And it's one of those things that sometimes I feel like, and this actually happened to me the last 10 man, that like when you are just trying to burn out clock, sometimes you stop playing paintball and are kind of mentally put yourself in this situation where you're like no longer in the game. You're just trying to do something completely different. And sometimes you can screw yourself up because you're like not really focused as far as on like where you're at, where you're leaning. You just kind of hide and you miss something that goes on around you. So Billy's hiding, Keith put this nasty shot on him, and then they took the game to overtime and we lost. And then we went into the next event, went to the finals again, and another really close game, and it came out, we lost. And then from there, it was just this, even to get back to the finals, it took us years. And we just started string. We were like the third place team, and we just kept going up and, third place, and all the way through for the next, 3.5 seasons, 4 seasons. It was just this weird situation to where we just kept getting knocked out, and whatever round it was, by the team that won the tournament. And some like crazy statistical, like if you go back and look at it, like I would say it's something like 85% or something, that if a team, whoever knocked us out, we would usually win all our prelim games, and then we'd lose either in the quarterfinals or the semifinals, and whoever knocked us out won the tournament almost every time. So you're sitting there at the end going like, well, shit, are we we just got 4th place, but are we playing at the second best team there, or are we not? It's just really hard to really gauge on that. And it usually just came down to one thing, and more often than not, it was Impact knocking us out too. And they just had our number for a really long time, and we practiced them before every tournament. And it's one of those things that you help each other. It's kind of like that iron sharpens iron type situation where you're scrimmaging with someone so much, but you really start to learn your tendencies. You practice each other so much, and they had the edge on us, and we just kept going through this to where it's like they just had the edge. And I think for us mentally with our egos, we were sitting there going, all right, well, we just need to learn from them at practice as much as they're learning from us. And that was kind of the mindset the whole time with Impact. And it just wasn't happening, for whatever reason. We just couldn't climb that hump. And I don't know, we occasionally would beat them in the prelims, but every time it counted on Sunday, probably nine times in a row or something, they would send us home. And they were winning most of those tournaments. They were the best team in the world, but we just weren't able to climb that mountain for sure. And so at the end of 2018, so, all those seasons we were finishing second in the series or third, just stringing together a bunch of podiums, but nothing. And we made it to the finals once, but matched up against Impact in, I think, 2017, and they knocked us out. And so what happened to kind of turn the tide is there was a practice, and on the forecast, I think this was before Chicago in 2018, there was rain showing in the forecast. And here in Texas, I'll just say that I feel like the weathermen probably have like maybe a GED education basis. Like they are flipping a coin here, and they are wrong more often than they are right. And everyone that lives here knows this. It's just no one watches the weather. It's just there's no way to predict it. And Impact saw the forecast coming up for this practice, and this is the weekend right before the tournament. So we've already had the first weekend of practice. It's the weekend right before. And they got really concerned about it, and they're looking and for their best interest, they're saying, hey, we don't think we might not come down because it's going to rain the whole time. So we might just stay up here. And personally, I was, and they were talking to Alex about this. They weren't really going through me. And I was pretty upset about it because I'm like, well, A, I don't really know it's going to rain, even though it says it's 130% chance. And B, that's, I feel like you kind of set up an obligation to go do something. You go do it. And C, it rains at all these paintball tournaments anyway. So wouldn't you want to go practice in the rain? It's just getting the elements. And so they made the call to not practice us. They wouldn't practice some other teams in California. And one of those teams happened to be in our bracket. So that was the one to go help them out. So that was even more sweet of them. So they didn't come practice us. We had no one to practice. We weren't prepared for the tournament because we had no team to practice. It's just the fact of it. There's things you can do on your own, but if you want to be 100% sharp before a tournament, you want to scrimmage another top team. It rained for about an hour. And so we starting practice at 9. We started at 10, and then it didn't rain for the rest of the weekend. So we go to the tournament. We lose our first game because personally, I felt like we weren't prepared. We lost to a team that we've never lost to again since or before. And we wound up having to play a wild card game, and we matched up with them. And we beat them up pretty good. And so we're sitting there going, well, a little redemption there, we knocked them out. They got 10th place. They lost the series title because of it. Maybe a little bit karma. And I like those. I respect them. I feel like they made a rough decision there and maybe got bit for it. We went on. We lost in the next round to the Russians in overtime, a match that we completely threw away. They went on to win the tournament, of course. We kind of learned right there that maybe practicing impact isn't in our best interests. And it had been a conversation for a long time that just these guys have the edge on us. What can we do to kind of just break down that barrier, break down that wall? And it's tough because it's a hard decision, because the fact of the matter is, like, we have a great facility, but there's only so many teams that have the budget to travel for practice all the time. And we're very fortunate to not have to travel for practice. And the majority of us live within driving distance. And it allows us to have more money in our budget to do some other things, to take care of players and other stuff. But, I don't want to send out the wrong impression that we didn't appreciate Impact coming to us all those years. And it's not like we'll never do it again, because they're a team with a big budget and can afford to come to practice. And so if you kind of make that hard line in the sand saying, hey, we're not going to practice these guys anymore, we might wind up in a situation where we need a team to come fly to us to practice, but we don't have one. So
we've definitely been there before. Exactly.
So it was a hard decision. It was a conversation. I was one of those guys kind of looking at budget and saying, hey, I don't know if we should not say we're not going to practice these guys. And that was the fight for a long time. But whenever they kind of bailed on us for practice, it kind of gave
you the excuse,
gave it that, kind of pushed us over the edge there to make that decision. And Archie was the one kind of leading the fight the whole time on the we shouldn't practice these guys. He was the one that kind of had the and for the reasons of, he thinks it was hurting us on Sunday. And it looks like he kind of might have been right, because since then we go into 2019, and they did beat us at the first event. And we picked up Rainey, and that also some of the drama there. Rainey didn't want the drama practicing them, and he also felt that he came up and said, like, hey, look, y'all should stop practicing Impact. That's why we're beating you all the time. So it kind of solidified that. So we stopped practicing Impact, haven't practiced them since. And we matched up with them at that first event, and I think emotions kind of got the best of us there on the quarterfinals. We spent a meeting kind of all night on one play we were going to do off the break. And the Vegas field, if you remember, it was super slow, and it could be just a very few points. And we spent our whole meeting basically on this one play for Rainey to run through and fuck up Mouse off the break. And it was just like maybe just a little bit, too much of us. And we thought, and Rainey knows these guys like the back of his hand, and it was his first tournament, that he thought that on that field, if we fucked up Mouse that first point, that it was gonna kind of change the momentum. And Mouse was playing really good on that field. And so be it. We spent too much time on this first play, and we break out and we shoot mouse off the break. And the whole play was for Rainey to go up the center and essentially go to their side of their big brick off the break and shoot mouse in the back and kind of essentially make them feel less comfortable about running to that snake insert off the break. So we shoot mouse off the break and it just doesn't really get to Rainey. And so Rainey still runs through, but nobody's home. And then it just turns into complete chaos and we lose that first point. And Archie also injured himself in our last match on Saturday. And this was kind of a lesson we learned, that we kind of forced Archie out on the field injured because Archie's a phenomenal player. But he really honestly shouldn't have been out there.
Right.
Yeah. And he was kind of hobbling around and he just wasn't 100%. We have great players, on our bench at that time that could have, stepped in. And so the match came down to, a tie game, or we ran out of time to tie our overtime. We got knocked out of that tournament in Vegas. And we learned a lot. And I think that's the big thing. It's like all these losses, you learn more from losing than winning, and especially when you're just so close. Those ones where you lose by 1 point or lose in overtime, there's so much more to take away from that than winning a tournament. You don't get exposed. Right. So we just had to really start taking in the mindset of not blowing up on each other every time we lost one of these tournaments. And a lot of time too, we were blowing it, it's one of those things that we had it and we were just throwing it away. And rather than sitting down and just attacking each other and pointing fingers and say, hey, you shouldn't have made that move. We could have won and stuff like that. Really just sit down and say, all right, everyone needs to learn from that mistake and sit down. And we'd have all these really long meetings after we got knocked out of a tournament, right there, when it's fresh, rather than everyone just taking their stuff off. And I watched some other teams get eliminated. And they just kind of oh, well, better luck next time. And, some guy's crying in the corner, another guy's just drinking a beer, and then they're out of there. And we'd sit down, for an hour or 2 hours and it was fresh and really just kind of break things down, how we take every, everything we could out of it. And, and so that got that tournament out of there. And we wound up and it was a huge help getting Rainey off of Impact because he had won so much in the 3-4 years prior. And so we knew everything we were learning from losing, and Rainey had all the information from winning. And we were kind of able to take all that and mesh it together.
That's a good point. Yep.
And so the very, next event was the Dallas event, and we wound up matched up with the Russians and in the semifinals, I believe. And we beat Impact. We knocked them out there. And then we match up with the Russians, and they just annihilated us off the break. It was just one of those where they couldn't miss. And we'd break out, and they shoot two of us. And we break out, and they shoot two of us. And the match is over in a heartbeat. Right. Maybe the first 2 points, maybe it was 2-2. And all of a sudden, they flipped the switch, and the match was just over. And we were just kind of looking around. And that was one where there wasn't a ton to learn from. Aside from, when we were playing the Russians, that maybe we needed to get a little bit outside of our comfort zone against them to kind of not play our game, but kind of play a different style sometimes to kind of roll the dice a little bit with them a little bit to kind of help us get that edge. And that was kind of the learning experience there.
I definitely feel like that's one team that you have to be constantly switching your game plan up based on if they get a little bit of an edge or a little bit of a swing, you got to change drastically, make them sort of change back, and then you go back and forth. But go ahead. No,
I agree. They have it with their scouting. They just have it. So if they have a read on you, you're literally you might as well just
dead.
Write up your play, give it to your guys, and then go give it to them. And that's essentially what you have to do. So it's just you might as well. So for us, there was a little bit to learn there, right? So we have all these things kind of going for us as far as we've kind of figured out how to be more competitive with Impact. At that point we were, out of the last 3 matches, we'd won 2. So we were kind of feeling like getting that monkey off our back a little bit. And then, we're learning a little bit from the Russians, who were just really hot at that point. and they're winning in Europe. They won that one. And so we roll into Philly, and then I think that's where just things started to fully click for us. So where we had, we're comfortable with our roster. We have, things figured out, its confidence was at a high that, we've learned from these losses. We've stuck together. So we go into Philly and it was just, I wouldn't say it's easy. It's never easy, but it just felt right the whole way through. And then we match up with the Russians, and there was just kind of more to learn from there. So we get into the finals with them, and we jump off to a huge lead on them, and we're just beating the crap out of them. And I'm sitting there going like, well, we might just 6-0 these guys, or not 6-0, but we might submit these guys.
Yeah, mercy them, whatever.
Yeah. But everyone knows it's the Russians, so like that's like pops in my head for like half a second, and then it's like, all right, delete, get that out of there, because I've seen these guys come back on anybody at any time. And so, and luckily we knew that, because, we're almost saying on the pit, like, all right, guys, we're up 5, like, here they come, like, it's get ready for a match, get ready for a battle, we're up 5. And I think it gets another team, like, we might have fully collapsed, because that like really starts to creep in your head, like, especially like in a finals game that you're winning and you see it just kind of like drifting away and there's nothing you can do. That'll just like kill your morale. So luckily, like, we were prepared for the Russians to come back. But still, they were just coming and coming, and we wound up, putting ourselves in a bad situation where Billy had the sweetest penalty I've ever seen.
I remember that play.
Yeah, so he definitely got the bronze fonts from Sam Monville on that one.
It is funny.
He
won a special award for that one.
Yeah, he definitely got the award for that. And if you want to see the coolest penalty ever, I would go back and watch that Philly match. And it's funny because he just blacked out. He just like literally afterwards, he wasn't even sure what he did. And like, it's really like, I mean, we can joke about it now, but it's really interesting because like he should have gotten 2 different majors, like 5 seconds apart. He just like completely blacked out. And it's, so that forced the game into the finals, and that finals, into overtime, because we lost that point and then we had to play with 3 on 5 with like 30 seconds left up a point.
What point in the match was it that he got the major? Like, how much time was left? And
like about 40 seconds, and we're up by 2.
Oh.
Yeah. So then,
I remember watching that point because I was sitting in there and. I wanted to watch my friends play because we're pretty close to all the X Factor guys. At the same time, Russians is like a ProShar sponsored team. So I'm kind of like watching them and I'm torn. I'm like, my friends are here, the ProShar guys are here. And I'm like watching this. And then I'm like, oh, X Factor's got it. And then Billy does that. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. They just, oh my God, what's he doing?
And everybody has to keep in mind, like, you guys haven't won an event in a long time. You're trying to get over that hump. You've made it to the finals a bunch. And you have this big lead on the Russians. And I remember watching this too, being like, man, they got a big lead, but there's a lot of game time left.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough spot to be in sometimes, if you can't just put the hammer down and just mercy them. But yeah, I just remember seeing the penalty as well and being like, what just happened?
Yeah, what just happened? It was wild. And like, luckily, like, we had a couple of things going for us there. Like we had a lot of like those learning moments we talked about of like blowing tournaments and like just learning from the fact that like blowing up in the pit at that point, like on Billy, was just not gonna help. Like, we just knew that like that just wasn't gonna like. And then also it was Billy who did it. Billy's a fucking stud. So it's just one of those things, like, we know that this match might go to overtime, and we know if we want to win, like, we need Billy on the field. And so it just kind of like, there's nobody said anything to Billy, and just like, all right, well, that happened, just like, let's get back on the field.
Yeah.
Like,
short-term,
who's our 3 guys? And I think we sent Billy out there, it's like, just, all right, clean this dummy off and get him back out there, because he's going to shoot somebody. And so then we wound up in that 3 on 5 with 30 seconds, and we almost held it off. And I think Billy was in that corner and dicing a couple guys up, and we almost held it off. But they hung it with, maybe 3 seconds left. And so we go into that overtime, and it was just a back and forth. And at that point, as a coach, like once it goes into overtime, like I don't know how you feel, Travis, but like that's a weird moment for me because my job is done. You know, like it's like every other like point throughout a match, like I'm scouting, I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to like get information. There's so much going on, and it's just kind of like a whirlwind. But once it goes to overtime, it's like, all right, I guess I put my clipboard down now, and I become just a spectator. Like I might as well be a pod guy at that point. And,
100%.
and yeah, so it's a very weird and sense of emotions that it's like, all right, I can't do anything here, so I'm just gonna sit back and just watch the show. And that was a real back and forth. And at one point, like, and I'm trying to like put my confidence out there, you know, and put it out that, hey, no matter what, we got this. But I remember in that a moment, just a bit of doubt, like whenever we got down, because we were down in that point for a little bit, like some doubt creeping in because we lost meter, you know, in the first like 10, 15 seconds. And just the way that match was going, you know, they just, you know, riddled off 4 or 5 points, and then we're down a body off the break. And I think that really just kind of like, I just felt it come out of me. Like I didn't like drop my head or anything, but it was just like, it just felt like, oh shit, we might have just like thrown away this opportunity.
I always, when I'm going into like a final play like that, yes, you don't have to like think ahead into the match. Like, what are you going to do next point or 2 points from now or whatever? You're just like, I got to give my guys the one body advantage on the break and give them the best play to go win the point. What was your thought process when you put out the final line?
So for that, they had all the momentum of basically just coming back, right? They're coming. And so we were playing defense, and not, you know, and it wasn't working. And they were just coming down that snake, and they were making it almost at will. And sometimes we'd shoot them and this come back, but they would have Malloy just running right behind Spoltroff. So, and Billy always wants to go off the break. And even if it's like a snake that's like 3%, like he's like, I can
let me go.
That's just in his head, which is great. But sometimes as a coach, like, and it's interesting because like I feel like players can will themselves to make a spot or not make a spot based on their confidence in paintball for some reason. Like if I'm ever telling a guy like, hey, go Dorito 2 off the break, and I see doubt in his eyes, like before he can even like kind of hesitate, I'll be like, either somebody else or never mind. You know, it's like, and it's, you can like, it's just like a feeling for some reason. But Billy is like 100% I can make it no matter what every time. And so I always have to like kind of take that into like my, like, which is great. But at the same time, it's like, and this snake wasn't easy to make because there was a nasty cross shot from that tower.
Right.
And
I remember that.
But I said, hey, we just got to roll the dice because it's just, they don't have, like, we got to get them on their heels. Like, we just have to. And we went with it. We rolled the dice on Billy, and he made it. They didn't go. And so we had an advantage on that side right off the break. But we lost meter, and it was just a good adjustment by the Russians. And it was something that the back center sucked. And so, but it had a good lane. And then you had that release, and they just had a gun waiting for meter on that release. And they did the same play. And it was just the guy releasing with meter, shot back at meter up front. I think it was Golov, and meter shot across at the snake, which was the traditional thing to do. And so they had that advantage, but we did have the outside on the snake. But it just, Billy got his shot cross field. And I think the first one was actually Rainey to even it up, was just shooting just a blind shot and caught Malloy fill in the corner, and it really had no idea he shot it. Just one of those, it was our time. And there's a lot of luck that comes into these things in paintball, where you just wind up in this, a lot of luck's involved. And I want to say a lot of times, all those terms we lost, like I felt like we're unlucky sometimes. And, but I feel like this time we just, that ball connected and did. And so it's just kind of this back and forth, and all of a sudden it winds up in this 2-on-2 that was just kind of this chaos at the end. And it was Archie and Colt. And honestly, in that situation, I couldn't have felt like I wouldn't have wanted anybody else out there, just for like, they were there for every single one of those losses, coming up. And they have the most experience. They're two of our best players, and you know, they went for it, and you know, Archie made this. I mean, it's been on highlight reels over and over and over again, and just made this blind move and caught Golov, and he just knew, and a bit risky, but he knew that when he shot Golov, that if he just ran at Sergey and traded, that he knew Colt was a veteran enough that he'd be alive over there somewhere, and so he just went for it and took the risk, and Colt was left to hang that buzzer. And that was just kind of an eruption of emotions, you know, of just, you know, how many. The tournament counted maybe 23 events, you know, or something like that, something crazy to get back to winning one. And it was just kind of amazing, you know, moment, especially the way it happened. And it was just the ups and downs of everything, the emotions, and just kind of just got that monkey off the back a little bit, that showed that we could do it. Because, you know, you start to question, you know, after that many tournaments and that many heartbreaks, and it's like, well, some of us we're a little bit older, been doing this for a long time. Like, how many of those can you take before you say, hey, look, we're just cursed, like it's just not going to happen, you know? And just getting that one win, it's not easy, and getting that one win, I thought it like bought us a lot of time. You know, I think Joey Blued even said to me, it was maybe his first event back, and he said to me that Saturday morning, so, you know, a day before, like, hey, the window's closing on you guys. And you know, Joey, and he's just, you know, really blunt. And I was like, well, yeah, I feel like we got a good team. He's like, yeah, but window's closing. You guys are getting old. And he's like, you better win now, you know? So it was 24 hours later. And, but the truth in that wasn't necessarily that we only had it, but we could have lose that one. I don't know if we win the next one just because of, you know, the damage it does of blowing one at that level. And then who knows what happens in the off season? You know, we have guys that might have just said, you know, hey, I'm done. And that could have been it, because a lot of us have been together for a really long time. So it's kind of a house of cards at the bottom there. Now I feel like that, you know, foundation is much stronger. But that was Philly. And just, you know, just look at like that penalty on Billy. You know, I don't know if we come back from that if we lose that match, you know. And I love Billy. He's one of my best friends. But just you know, it's just that would have been one of those. That's
definitely hard. That's a hard one to take, especially when you guys were in that position and you had the win, like, just, you know, a minute or two away. So,
that was
sweet.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
That was a sweet one, and then the next one was, you know, Nick Sloviak was having a baby, and we kind of had our first practice. And it just didn't go well at all. I don't know who we were practicing, but it just, maybe it was heat, maybe it was you guys, or it just wasn't a good practice.
I know we practiced you guys because we came down there. I think it was the 2 weeks before, and
so it was probably against you guys, and it just wasn't. It just felt off, you know. It didn't feel good, and we had I mean, this is a pretty funny story. This is probably more of an infamous story than an X Factor story. We had Dan Napoli came down because our BKIT film was premiering at a film festival.
Oh yeah, okay.
So we went out to there, and a lot of the guys made it up. It was in Austin, so a lot of guys made it up to go watch this film at the Austin Film Festival. And so afterwards, we went out to a bar, and so we're all we had practice with you guys on Saturday, or no, we came to. Yep. Okay. So was this LJ showed up that weekend, or was this the weekend after? No, I think it was the weekend after. So it was. It was right before. So we practiced Saturday or Friday. Okay, this is Friday night. Film festival. Sorry, I lost it. All right, Friday night. So we have practice on Saturday. We are at this bar, and Alex is with us, and we're having, you know, quite a few beverages. And all of a sudden I get a call from Rainey and Billy, because they were at the hotel because they didn't want to drive up to Austin because they flew into San Antonio pretty late. And they're like, hey, I think we need a player. And so they had called LJ and like, hey, can you make it to practice like tomorrow? And this was Friday night at, you know, midnight 30. And LJ's like, oh, I don't know. Like that sounds, you know, that's a little tight, you know? And so we wound up, but I think Rainey talked to Dalton as well. Like Dalton was on the line thinking about, you know, I might be able to make it. And but we wanted LJ. You know, LJ was our boy. He played with us, you know, the seasons prior. Like, and all of a sudden, we just made it happen. I looked at Alex and we were like, all right, let's fucking do it. So we booked a plane ticket at 12:30. LJ got to the field at like 1 p.m. on Saturday. So we had like a couple hours of practice with LJ on Saturday, a full day on Sunday, an hour of practice on Thursday. We go to this tournament, and the boy just went off. You know,
he had a great event.
Yeah, just went off. And that one, it was just like you know, of course, in every tournament, there's points that you might win or lose, but or matches that are tough. But it was just, we were just cruising. And so we went through that. LJ stunted. He got the MVP in the finals. And it wasn't like people were like, oh, it's just a great center for him. But like in the finals, like he crushed it in the center. He clutched the point coming over to the snake. He won a one-on-one out of the Doritos. Like, it was just meant to be, you know, and we, you know, we won that second event. And from there, it was just like, confidence was super high. And it's like, all right, well, you know, now we've arrived, you know. It's like, and we knew for the longest time that like we felt like we were the best team out there, but there was just these little things that we couldn't do. And we, you know, we clutched through. And so going into World Cup, we had a slight lead on the Russians for the series. And now, and the series wasn't even like, we had gotten close to winning it in years past, even though we hadn't won tournaments, and we'd got second maybe once or twice in the series. And one time, all we had to do was win one game in the quarterfinals to win the series against like Aftershock, and we blew it. But I always felt like if winning the series without winning one or two tournaments, like at least one tournament, like I don't even know if that should count, to be honest. So
totally agree with that. Yep.
Yes. So I was like, it really wasn't even a thought to me about like, oh, whether or not like the series should even matter. But once we won those two tournaments and we had that lead, it was like, okay, now we can do something, because as a team, you know, we've won World Cup, you know, now we're winning tournaments. We had never won the Pro Series, and okay, so this will kind of like complete, you know, it's the other bookend, and not like we're done and anything like that, but we kind of wanted that, you know, to have that at the end of the day, you know, it's like we won World Cup, we won this, you know, we've done this and that. We did it all. You know, we won MPPL, Huntington Beach twice. You know, there's not much. That was the one thing left to do. So when we got into that, we go in there and we're cruising through all these games. And at the point, Saturday night, I think we're at 18 games in a row that we had won. And it was all about winning that tournament, winning World Cup. You know, we weren't really talking about the series and the whole thing. What I said to the guys at the end of the meeting,
in a row.
Yeah, we had won 18 games in a row, and so we had 3 games in front of us. Yeah. So we had 3 games in front of us, and to win the series, to win World Cup. You know, win World Cup when you win 3 more games, and we're all gamblers on our team. Like some of us might be borderline degenerates. So I just looked at the guys at the end of the meeting, and I just goes, look, we got 3 more to go. We've won 18. I just go, blackjack, motherfuckers. And I just stood up and walked out of the room. So, you know, that was the whole goal. And so on our first game, we got tested against Impact. And it was a tough one. We had to come back. And there's still that like emotion with Impact, because they beat us up for so long. And we just, you know, we want to have their number now. We were down like 2 or 3 points, 4 points with not a lot of time left. And we came back on them, and we beat them in overtime. But this, it drained us. Physically, it just one of those matches that it just took us out of us. You know, we had LJ going every point, you know, running down a lot of stuff. And I was looking at our guys after that match, and we played the second set quarterfinal match and not the first one. And there's pros and cons there, because you get to watch the other set and stuff like that. But we just weren't physically there. And it's a quick turnaround, maybe 30, 40 minutes. And Heat just beat the crap out of us. Like, it wasn't even a game. And so we had done 19 in a row at that point. I really don't think that's ever been done. I think that's a record that might have multiple games on it. And we got knocked out there, and that streak ended. We were left to kind of sit there and with our fate, because we needed Heat to beat the Russians to win the series. It was out of our control at that point. And those situations are just terrible. It's not fun. At one point, I didn't want to watch. I went to back to the hotel, to our house. I took a shower. I was sitting there, drinking some beers, and I have to give it to my parents because they were there, to support me. And because I kind of made the decision that I wasn't going to go back and watch. I was like, I can't watch this. It's just I'd be too stressed out. And my mom said, well, hey, I'm going to go watch. And she texted me and said, hey, me and your dad we're going to go watch the finals. And I was just like, you know what? Like, what can it hurt? So I went out there, and a couple of us, and Travis, your beautiful wife, Camille, snuck us into the VIP so we could watch because there was no, sorry if I get you in trouble here, Camille, but
no space left.
Yeah, no space, no that. And I had a pass, but she got Archie and Billy in, which is great because, the three of us got to watch that together. And it was just a mess of a match, and you couldn't hear anything at all. The players couldn't hear the horn on the field go off, and I think I heard this that like Ryan Moorhead was looking at the clock, and he just told the other Heat guys, when I go, you go, because they couldn't even hear the buzzer. And it was just that much of a crazy atmosphere in that match, and they and it was just such chaos of emotions, and not only are we a bit intoxicated, and we were in the VIP with the Impact guys, and Bart's buying us some beers and stuff, and Bart kind of said to us, once Heat got up there, he goes, hey, just so you know, this happened to us last year, and the Russians had a lead, and Heat came back and beat them and took the series from us. So he was kind of like being a nice guy about it, like just kind of sit back and don't let your emotions take you for too much of a ride here. And at the end, it was just absolute chaos because, the scoreboard is at one point saying the Russians won, and we think we lost the series. And then the score switches, and we're sitting there like, what does this mean? Flags are flying. And then we finally realized that Heat won. And honestly, like, we probably celebrated at that moment as hard as they did as winning the World Cup. We felt like we just won. I mean, we won the series, and it was just one of those things that we kind of we're blessed to go 3 tournaments in a row of being able to celebrate on that podium, and did the last thing that we'd never done before. So it was a beautiful moment to share with everybody. And 2019 was just, a magical year for us, but now it's kind of battling that we're not finished. We're not, we got more left to do.
Yep. The hangover, they call it.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Exactly. It's trying to battle all those things that after you win the NFL, you win the Super Bowl. It's hard to repeat. And there's a lot of personnel things you got to deal with, a lot of just all over the place, emotions, motivations. It's gotta fight that new fight. It's a new challenge.
That's right. Now, but it was great to see. It was great to see for all you guys, and just seeing you guys, on the podium and just going crazy, and especially like for me, like knowing Alex for that long and how much this meant to Alex, and knowing how much time and effort and just everything he's put into it, I was just like, wow, this is really just a cool moment, just for all you guys, but just for me and Alex, like just connecting on some other different levels. I was like, wow, this is great, dude. So congratulations, that was cool.
Thank you. We did it.
Yeah, we did it. And I also have to say that I think it was because we had so many like 10-man bondings throughout last season, and I feel like that 100%. Really pushed you guys.
Hey, winning on the 10-man field, it's harder than winning on the X-ball field, you gotta say.
Right on.
Speaking of 10-man, we have a 10-man teammate to add in here real quick.
Oh yeah, let's get the squad in here. There he is.
What's up?
Yes, let's talk 10-man.
What's up,
real
teammate?
paintball.
Yeah.
There he is. What's up, teammate?
What's happening?
What's up? Here we are. Let's go.
That looks good.
There she is.
Oh snap! There's the belt.
There's the belt.
Nice.
I miss you. Yeah, let's talk some real paintball.
Those ODMA X Factor shirts are pretty clean.
They're smooth. I like it. Pick yourself up one.
Yeah,
they are.
That's the squad right there.
Nice. That's how Harrison looks this morning too after those IPAs.
Oh my god.
Anyone think Harrison's gun's worth more now they open a beer with it?
There's a good chance. My plan was to bring these down this weekend for practice and kind of give them to the whole squad, but then damn virus.
Yeah, I need that girl.
Is that your office, Ryan, or like baby play area?
So what's happened is I had this dope office, and I got all my trophies and everything in there. But my wife works from home like two days a week already before this, and so she's kind of like taking the office now as hers. And then this whole thing went down, and so our office had to be shut down. So I've now moved into our upstairs extra playroom. So I definitely got a lot of sweet stuff going on in here.
Nice.
Got a mousetrap up here at the top. Got a Spider-Man tower. I'm just crushing it. I hang out in this tunnel a lot. And
that's pretty cool.
After I practice my 10-man crawls, my snake crawls.
Nice.
This is just a preview of what Harrison and LaSoya were doing yesterday on the live show.
Oh, what a wonderful picture.
Lovers love.
And I just wonder if Harrison knows that Chris wants it right there. He's just lean in, baby.
He's in. Yeah.
Yep.
You guys won the Pittsburgh event last year, right? Or was that
the ICC? We won in 2018. So
Dynasty won it last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, last year the 2019 was kind of one of those. We cruised through prelims. We won every game, and we had a pretty big lead on the leaderboard because a lot of games are stalemating, but we were just crushing through the prelims. But just the way that ICC is, it's one of those. We coin flipped. We got the Woods ball field for the quarterfinals, and that stung. I think that you guys did as well, and you guys had to have that crazy comeback on the saber whips to get through, but we didn't win in the Woods, and that knocked us out.
Yeah, that's tough, dude. Like that's why I still love playing the 10-man thing. Is it's just the no pun intended, but the X factor of having a Mounds field or a Woods field. It's not just all traditional paintball. I like having the different formats and terrains and whatever you want to call it. But it's cool. It's definitely a different element, like a lost art out there.
Yeah, and I like I think as our X, like when we were playing as X Factor, I think we always did well in the hyperball and the mounds, but I don't think we were as capable as a Wizzball team as we could be. And so the year we won in 2018, we only played the semifinals and finals were all on the hyperball, and that might be the same, but the quarterfinals. We only played one. We played one game on each, right? So you played one hyperball field and one mounds field. We smoked those two games, and then we had to play the Philly Americans in the Woods, but they had dropped the games. All we had to go out there was stalemate them. And so we went and did that. And we stailed them up on bodies. I don't know what would happen if we tried to play them, but we kind of got out of that Woods situation heads up, and then we just played hyperball in the finals. But I think our 10-man squad with Infamous, I think we're much better in the Woods. We got
I
Travis.
like the Woods, to be honest.
Yeah, I do too. So we got LaSoya, we got you, the guys that are growing up crushing people in the Woods, and I think it's just one of those things that I'm definitely much more comfortable with the skeleton squad going into these 10-mans in the Woods. That we are fully rounded and ready to smash people.
Yeah, we used to call it in the Woods. We'd call it the light side and the dark side, and the dark side is where it's the dark woods, and the light side is still where it's kind of like speedball in the woods, right? There's bunkers, there's not many twigs in the way, so we put the little speedball kids over in the light side, and then the old grimy dudes go in the dark side.
In the dark side, crush it, where you can accidentally maybe you go on the field wearing a beanie and maybe you check in and you're not wearing one. Something happens.
Yeah, maybe you go there into the ditch and just magical things happen. I don't know.
Magic. Oh man. Well, good. I'm ready for some 10.
Combination. We have a nice combination of the old school and some of the new school guys, and we kind of talked about it a little bit the other day. You would think if you took like a full all current NXL roster team out there that they would just have a advantage above everybody else, but that's not the case. We've seen a lot of these kind of hodgepodge teams come together and they just struggle in those different environments, and it's like the woods is like an equalizer. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously Ryan knows he got shot on the break in the woods. I don't know how that's possible.
I tripped on a vine.
It was like a miracle ball from like 3,000 yards away.
Yeah, but I tripped on this whatever stick, whatever. But I was laid out on the ground there for a while, broken neck.
Snake.
Yeah,
snake.
Tripped on the snake probably in that field.
Right on. That's a good time.
ICC might be the next tournament we play.
It's very possible.
Let's go do
I'm
it
thinking
right
about
now.
booking I think about booking my ticket now while it's cheap. Might as well.
I was booked months ago.
Yeah, because I could put those vibes out in the world that tournament's going to happen.
100%. It's got to happen.
Hey, so I'm just like going back and looking at some of these comments. And the questions for Ryan is basically like, people want to know kind of like how you got your start, like, and how did you come together with X Factor and that whole, can you tell us like how Ryan and X Factor became one?
Yeah, definitely. It is a kind of a long story, but I'll give you the short one here because I don't want to take up everyone's Saturday. If you want the long story, I did a paintball therapy podcast with Brad Groot like 2 days ago, and I kind of went in for like an hour and a half of the full thing. But as far as myself, my start with X Factor, I started playing 10-man national events in 2003 with a team called Texas Havoc. And I was real tied in with the Garcia brothers, the Gerald and Rich Garcia. And so I was playing with, they started that team. And then when they went to Oakland, we started a kids team called B-Slap Factory. And we played, the divisional paintball for a little bit and did pretty well at that. And towards the end of that 2005 time, I was practicing quite a bit with the Philly Americans up in Pennsylvania. And what Gerald was trying to get me on that team as I guess things, some of the older guys retired or whatnot. We actually practiced, I don't know if you remember Travis, once or twice with Infamous up there at Jerky Bob's field up on the mountain that season. So I was playing with Philly at those practices, and Brett Cohen was one of my best friends with BKIT, all us growing up, and he was playing with Infamous with you, Travis, at the time. And Brett kind of pulled me aside at that practice and said, hey, I'm thinking about going back to X Factor, where he came from before Infamous, to play with his brother. So I kind of, thought about it. I was going to college the next year, and, the Philly thing was kind of, not solidified 100%. And I said, all right, I'll do this. And they were a good Division I team at the time. They'd won the series the year before. So I jumped on with X Factor at the end of 2005, and I played a couple seasons. We went pro the next year in 2006. And played a couple seasons with the squad, with the team. And, I was focusing on college a little bit, focusing on girls a little too much, focusing on little playing time was difficult with us having so many guys, on the team. We had 15 guys on the roster, and I was the last guy to join. And so at the end of 2007, I kind of decided to take a step away from playing and kind of finish up school, get my life, more, steady and stuff. And honestly, I kind of regret stopped playing at the end of that year, at the end of 2007. And, the team went on and, they had some, in 2008, the team was strong, and I was still best friends with all these guys. I lived with Grayson up and, through everything. And so I'd see the team every weekend, we were partying. And I played 2009, I played a 7-man, pro 7-man with X Factor, but for more or less, I was completely stepped away from paintball for multiple years. And then at the end of 2011, beginning 2011, Archie reached out to me and just said, hey, like, do you think you might be willing to come coach? We don't have a coach. I think, we just need some help. And it wasn't like I was like supposed to be like some masterful coach at that point in 2011, but it was just like a comfortable body at that point that could come help out. And that's kind of where my coaching story started. You know, it's just kind of one of the boys at that point. And through multiple seasons and years of kind of, you know, honing my craft at coaching and kind of leveling up and, you know, putting in the work, I started kind of becoming a legitimate, you know, coach. It was qualified, I guess, enough to kind of lead a team, you know, towards the top end of the league.
So one thing that I was going to ask you about, because I remember playing against you guys back when we were, you know, Division 3 or Division 1, like with DC Devastation, and I remember you guys, or X Factor, always being that team that was, you know, either in the top 3 or winning. And I remember we jumped from D3 to D1, which was basically kind of like semi-pro, I think, at the time. And I remember we made the jump because we were like, you know, we might as well just take this big bite and just kind of go grind it out. And we're either going to get really good or we're not, you know? And I remember we made the jump, and then X Factor made the jump as well. And we were like, okay, you know, so like I don't know if you can talk about that a little bit, just like for the divisional guys out there that are thinking about what division they should be playing in or how they should be going up in the ranks. But I think that is something that, you know, a lot of guys are constantly thinking about.
Definitely. I guess there's two schools of thought right now. Like, you know, when X Factor, when the jump happened, you know, I was kind of like, oh, that could be a bit scary. Like, especially back then, Division 2 was a pretty nasty division. You know, with like LTZ, and there was good teams. Like when y'all made that jump,
too.
Yeah, and it was a big, thick division. So Division 1 was much lighter as far as a team count, and then in Division 2 was a grind. And I think like LTZ was, you know, obviously they went pro. You know, they jumped, you know, much later when y'all made that jump. So you jumped over them. Everyone jumped over. Like Twisted Factory was pretty nasty back then. You know, there was a lot of good teams, and you know, that jump, you know, Division 1, obviously the talent was more, but there was less teams, and it seemed like, you know, X Factor jumped D3 to D1 and started winning, you know, pretty soon, right? And being competitive, and I can't really recall as far as how'd y'all do on Devastation, Callie. Was it pretty?
When we made the jump, it was definitely not easy, and I remember we were competitive, but you know, we weren't taking first places or anything like that. We were pretty much like in the same boat as we were in D3, just kind of like right on that edge of getting there. But it was definitely still a grind on the guys, and that's actually kind of what like my story of getting into pro paintball is we just Trav, what are you doing over there? Printing orders.
It's the nature.
We got an order going out.
Nice. So we kind of got burned out, you know. It was definitely a lot harder for us. The team kind of got burned out, and I think that was kind of the moment when some of the guys on the team were like, okay, this is a lot harder than I originally signed up for, or just maybe kind of like, man, I don't know if I can go to the next level from here. It just, you know, the team kind of just fell apart at the end of the season, which is when J-Rab and I just kind of decided to go try out for Excessive, and that's where I got my steps into the pro ranks. But it was not pretty by any means. But you kind of know that signing up for that, you know, you're making a big jump, and it's a lot harder of a division. But you kind of have to just sign up for that and know that's what you're getting into. And I mean, I personally was all about it. The competitive side of it was what I was all about. So it wasn't that big of a deal for me, but yeah.
Yeah, you know, and that's kind of like there's two ways I look at it, because obviously from the X Factor perspective, it worked, and it was kind of like I don't think teams should be like trying to just sit in their division forever. Like I think this whole thing is about like climbing the ranks, but biting off too much more than you can chew is also just the way the structures with APPA points can like end your people's careers, you know, and just like an example of that is you know, some of Brett's boys on PMob, I helped coach them a little bit, not, just at tournaments. I would go over and help out some matches. And so some of the bandits came over to PMOB, and when we were in Division 2, we won an event, or two, but it was very inconsistent. I just didn't feel like they were ready to make that jump to semi-pro just yet. Like they needed another season. And I don't remember exactly how it all happened, but some of, the bandits were, disbanding, and they wanted to get some of the semi-pro guys off the bandits, and they had a conversation. And this is obviously, I apologize if I'm saying something that isn't correct, because it's just kind of relayed to me. I wasn't a part of, these discussions, but they decided to go semi-pro, and the full team was not ready. Some of those players were semi-pro players and ready, but the full organization wasn't ready to make that jump, and they wound up having a pretty tough season, and then that team's not around anymore. And that was a stable organization. They had funding, good ownership, all that stuff, and now they took that jump, and some of those guys have gone on, and they're in a good situation that they're playing for the Hurricanes and semi-pro. But I have to, I'm not fully involved in that team, but some of those guys just played a year of semi-pro. They weren't ready for it. They're probably still not ready for it. And now their ranking is semi-pro. And they have to go figure out that maybe they can find a Division 2 team that could take maybe one of them, maybe two of them. And it's just kind of a weird situation. And I don't necessarily, I understand the way APPA is set up to prevent sandbagging. But I do think there should be some type of review board or something in place to allow guys to get declassified, to make sure we're not losing players based on ranking them out of the system, maybe outside of their skill set. Because I definitely think we do that. I played pro in 2007, and I'm a bad example of this, but just as an example, I played one tournament 2009, and I played pro in 2006 and 2007, but I'm still ranked Division 2, and I haven't played in over a decade, as far as, an actual, APPA tournament. It takes a long time it takes longer than to sit on the sidelines. It would take longer than you'd want to play a tournament again. And I shouldn't be playing Division 2, and so I'm a bad example of it. But there's guys that probably, teams that needed an extra body that went and played, half a season for semi-pro. Maybe they got cut off their team. And what do we do with those extra guys now? They can't play local tournaments because local tournaments aren't ranked high enough. And no semi-pro team might not want to pick them up because they're not ready for it still. So that's kind of my thing about jumping divisions too early, is that the system right now is kind of stacked against it, even though I do not think teams should hang around in Division 3 or Division 4 forever. You got to go challenge yourself. You got to get up there. What are you doing? You spend a lot of money to go play Division 5. You can play Division 5 at your local field.
So one success story off that PMOB squad, Tim Stetzel. He plays with NYX. So I don't know if you got to coach him at all, but
I did. I got to coach Tim. I got to spend a lot of time with Tim because when in Division 2, when they were playing, you could just tell that Tim was going to make it. You can never say, but you knew the potential was there. And honestly, for us to win matches, a lot of it was on Tim's back. I kind of almost regret it. Not really. I love you, Tim, but Tim almost put a hurting on us at this last tournament. Yeah. And so it was one of those things going, man, maybe we taught this kid too much, because he was playing well. So
yeah,
I'm happy for him.
If he had just a little more experience, he could have been very, very deadly. You could tell he had made a couple mistakes just because he doesn't have the experience that somebody like Billy does playing in a snake. But his athleticism and just his natural ability as a killer, killer instinct, he looked good.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's got a good future in front of him. Any more sweet questions in this chat here?
Yeah, so just a couple quick questions. I mean, I had some stuff written down. I just wanted to get your thoughts on Does it make you mad that we've won more events in Texas than the BKIP?
Yeah, it pisses me off. Yeah, it's interesting. The last tournament that we won in Texas was the Ice Bowl in 2006 in Division One. That was my first tournament with X Factor.
That was the worst.
So that was the last one we've won, and we've just kind of had and honestly, like, I don't think we've even played in the finals in Texas. There's times that we've been close, and we haven't had the right shake of things. So I'd like to get one here. I would, and you guys seem like maybe I need to study that, because maybe you guys should work on getting one somewhere else. But it's
we should just have all the events in Texas as well.
Yeah, you guys are crushing. Yeah, that's the event that we're getting canceled here was literally in Round Rock, 2 miles from my house right now. So it was going to be a challenge, pros and cons with that, obviously.
That's my bed right there behind Ryan.
It is. It is. No mattress, baby.
Happens.
Get on there.
Archie said that's the role play room.
It is. I dress up like Spider-Man.
But no, Camille, this lady that I know, she's asking, how is X Factor staying in touch, and kind of what are you guys doing to stay on top in the off season?
Yeah,
or not the off season, the virus season.
So we haven't got on any of these video calls yet. We should in the virus season. I stay with touch with a lot of guys on the phone. We have our group chat, but it's usually just filled with things that we pulled off of Pro Paintball Troll on Instagram, putting those, make sure everybody saw that glorious content. But yeah, it's just kind of waiting. Everyone's just itching. I think Archie and Jesse both felt like they were safe with been self-quarantining enough that they could go out to our closed paintball field and play some one-on-ones with each other. But it is kind of we just want to play, man. Everyone I talk to, I think Meter's taking up skateboarding. He says he's living up his high school dreams. So I'm just waiting for him to hopefully not injure himself. But yeah, it's tough, man. It's just trying to open that communication like we always do. I was just talking to Rainey a little bit last night, and just trying to make sure we're all tight. I'd like to, luckily we own a field. And so I'm torn, because it's like, I'd like to get out there and feel like we can just go do some local practices. At the same time, it's like, I'm sitting here struggling to self-quarantine. I got a family and stuff like that, and I'm at home all the time, and is it worth is that responsible of me? It's pointless to go throw it away and to just go play, do some practice. So I'm kind of torn what to do there, but I'll tell you that we're starting to struggle. We want to go out there and play.
Yeah. Definitely. You don't want to put your family at risk, or one dude's sick and the whole team's sick.
Exactly.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, just do the 6 feet rule. Just stay away from each other on the field.
No bunkering. 10 feet rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Archie last night. He was helping me put together my business loan is coming through, so I needed him to let me use his office printer, because it needed to print out legal sheets. And it was weird seeing one of my best friends we didn't even really address it, but we're staying away from each other the whole time. No handshake, no hug, and it was just a kind of an interesting situation.
I have a really good friend of mine from high school who works for me, and he's kind of a germaphobe as it is. And every time I get too close to him at work, he takes a step backwards. And this is we could be a full 10 feet away, and I just get a little bit too close, and he goes full step back.
Another way.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah.
So you said Jesse and Archie were out there doing one-on-ones. One of the questions I was going to ask is, if you had to do the one-on-one battles to win the event, who are you going to throw out there?
This has actually become more easy for me because Rainey has come out and said he does not want to do it. And so it's funny. And I think there's a funny story. In 2007, we were playing semi-pro. We were still a pro team, but we were playing semi-pro. And we had 2 semi-pro teams because you had to win your spot in. And there was a Kansas City tournament that was inside in the stadium. And we went up and we were playing in the semifinals against Aftermath. And it came down to one-on-ones. And Rainey went out there for Aftermath, and Derek Jordan went out there for my team. And Derek pretty much shot him in the first 5 seconds and knocked him out. So we actually went to the finals and played it. The 2 X Factor teams played each other in the finals. I don't know if that's ever happened before. We were all ripped on like a whole lot of beer. Like imagine playing a finals and just like, because it was like a win-win. So it was fun. But I think I'm gonna go probably, Archie and Colt are the guys I'm gonna lean on there. That experience level. And Archie is he's came in clutch in the big moments, and he did that one-on-one pro tour with Ryan Greenspan, and I think somehow Ryan's gotten rid of that full content because the score was run up pretty high by Archie. But
they have the little My Fan Wagon thing going on right now, right?
They do. So if you want to vote on one-on-one, I would say ask for that footage. But it's that one-on-one has happened. I think they played like 40 something one-on-ones in one day. And I think it was pretty lopsided. So they initially trusted that Paintball Pro Tour Brandon Schwartz thing. So Archie and Ryan actually did that in like 2016. That's how long Brandon started that, and then it didn't see the light of day for another 2 years, and then it's disappeared again. So, but that footage exists. Yeah.
So go over to myfanwagon.com and vote for Archie.
I would. He's beat that old man Ryan over there, the paintball legend. In the one-on-ones many times.
I just voted Archie.
Is that still going on right now?
Yeah, it's on there. My Fan Wagon app.
Yep.
I think it's cool what they're doing with it. It's interesting how some people that win, it's like a popularity contest thing, because certainly some of the people that won some of these matchups were not based on skill.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get something on the internet, popularity comes into it, but you got to give it up to, some of these guys, like you look at Ronnie, like he works really hard to connect with his fans and have an actual personal connection. So if he comes out and wins that thing, you put him head to head against Karslov, I don't know if, I think Karslov's done more of recent than Ronnie, but, Ronnie's, he works hard at his social media game. And
yeah, Ronnie's really good. He's probably not quite as consistent as Karslov is, but
yeah, I think I would say the same. And it's different the way they put it up there. If they would have said, we're quarantined right now, so everything's theoretical. But if you said if it's a different bracket, if you said, all right, who's gonna get more kills in a match, and you do it like that head to head, obviously if there's something more in the line for it, then it'd be different. But right now it's who's your player, who's your boy. And so it's a bit of a popularity thing. And Ryan Greenspan probably has the edge on Archie there because he's the social media machine.
Probably the number one most influential in paintball on social media.
Yep.
So that's going to be tough.
Yeah, who's going out there for one-on-ones for Infamous?
At Cup, I went out for one as well as Cody. Cody's probably the best one-on-one player on the team. Travis obviously would have to answer that. I threw my gun at Cup when I lost my one-on-one and got suspended. So I don't know how that's going to go next time, but I would definitely step out there for a one-on-one for the team no matter what. But that's kind of on the coach and how people are playing at the event. And we've done one-on-one tournaments at practices before the event just to kind of like gauge where everybody's at and get that little internal competition going. Yeah, so obviously Trav would have to.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's one thing you don't really want to wind up in that situation and go be guessing at it. And I guess it does probably in that match too. Probably should who's got the momentum, like who's stunning in that particular match, would probably play a factor as well.
That's how I am. Like if I was ready to go, I'd be like, put me out there. And if I wasn't, I'm very in tune with that for myself. Now, I wouldn't put myself out there top 1 or 2. I'd put Cody out there, but I'll tell you what, I'm better than Harrison Fry at one-on-one. So when Trav's putting together that, depth chart, yeah, Trav knows. So
The way Cody plays, just in 5-man, I can already see it. Him being, I mean, I just don't see him ever going away. He's probably just gonna ride or die on people until he shoots them. And that's how Colt Roberts plays 1-on-1s too. So, and that's how Grayson used to. So, I think it'd be interesting to see a Colt versus Cody matchup in a 1-on-1 because it's only gonna last about 15 seconds probably. Someone's getting fucked up.
Yeah, I think our favorite thing that we like to do is have these like little mini 1-on-1 tournaments, and it would be great to have unlimited time at practice, but because we travel a lot for practice, we have to like run and catch flights, and it's just constantly rushing. But I do think that like typically like at World Cup we'll have end the practice because we're there all week. We'll end the practice with a 1-on-1 tournament where you just bracket down like like March Madness style, and it's super cool. But then if it does come down to 1-on-1s, you're like you and you know what I mean? You're like,
you just gotta pull the trigger. Yeah, we did some cool stuff. It's been years. I think it was maybe when I started, whenever they were gonna go to blind layouts, I was kind of dug into my brain to kind of think of like some things that to do differently. So we had a couple of times where we did some things. We had one 1-on-1 thing where you would start, your guns would be at the start gate, and you would both start at the center 50, and you'd go and you'd have to race and grab your guns and pick them up and then play a 1-on-1. Which I think kind of gives you like a different like mental thing as like in a game, like a 1-on-1 just happens and you have to like, you don't know where they're starting and that kind of stuff. So that was interesting. And then we had one that was more fun. We called it Hunger Games. And so what you did is everyone started with 5 balls in your loader, 4 guys on the field, 1 in each corner. And everyone's like solo. And we put like pods around the field that all had like 2 balls in it. And basically you break out and it's everyone for themselves. There's 4 guys on the field, but you only got 5 paintballs and you want to play that match out. And that was really interesting to see, like, cause you're like having to like hit your shots and sneak around and everyone's trying to kill you. And then teams of the guys would like team up and like screw some guy over. Like, so it was definitely a cool thing to do. But now with the way things are with the layouts and you got your 2 weekends, it's really about just trying to, get as much time on that field as possible. So it's not as fun.
Yeah, I think even if they didn't release the layouts, even if they did go to blind layouts, you're still going to practice. You're going to do as much as you can, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. I think you'd practice more, personally, because right now you kind of like you almost wait for that layout to come out, if it makes sense. Like, and yeah, maybe you get out there a little bit, but as a team, you're just kind of waiting for the layout. I think if they just did blind layouts, that you would kind of like, hey, let's practice every other week or every 3 weeks as a team, and you spread it out more. And to me, that's almost more, you can swallow that more, like even as like a family man or something. Because right now it's a bit of a struggle because it's like paintball goes practice, tournament. And so you're kind of giving up, almost like a full month or something. And I think if they had blind layouts, or just release the layout at the previous tournament, you would wind up just any way you do it. If you wouldn't put people on such a schedule, they could all work around. Brett, you taking a piss over there, dude?
Busted.
You would wind up, the team could get together in their team chat and they could, say, hey, this weekend I have to go to a wedding, and you could work around an actual practice schedule that works out for everybody. So I realize the reason I do it right now is, to give the teams like the fields, like, you're going to have practices on these set weekends, but I don't think it goes down. I think almost more paintball will be played.
Yep.
All right.
Sal,
cool, guys.
Sal wants to know bong rip or pissed.
He knows.
Same time, both.
Right on. Well, hey, this has been pretty cool. Ryan, I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's definitely cool to have a different, perspective of, arguably the top winning coach of all of last season. So it's cool to have that perspective and your thoughts on everything.
Definitely. No, I enjoyed it a lot. It was good. I just want to play some 10-man though.
10-man life. Let's go.
And we can skip this next NXL.
We can queue up some Go Sports footage and have you back on and talk about some 10-man matches.
There we go. We can run it through.
Some of the other X Factor guys back on here. because obviously we want to keep this live show going, just kind of bring everybody together a little bit and bring some good content out there. So any suggestions, by all means, let's do it.
Absolutely. A bird?
Oh, baby.
Chicken?
What is that?
What is that?
It's a chicken.
Is that
You're going to eat
lunch?
No,
Your dog.
they make eggs.
that?
Your
Oh,
dog's
okay.
looking at that chicken.
The horse is looking at the chicken.
Easily throw a saddle on that horse and ride it around.
We might get a lot more viral views if that Great Dane eats that chicken right now.
Speaking of viral views, we had Chris Lasoya on yesterday, so anybody watching, go check that video out. It was pretty funny.
Earmuffs.
Comical. Definitely earmuffs and parental advisory. To wrap this up, we have Greg Sewers coming on Monday, so check that out. We'll be live, so get some questions ready and definitely stay tuned for that. Tomorrow's Easter, so happy Easter.
Oh,
Happy
wow.
Easter, guys.
Happy Easter.
Enjoy it. Happy Easter to
Yep.
you guys and your families.
Yeah, you got the chick already. You got the little baby chick for Easter.
I know we're dying Easter eggs tomorrow with the fam. Just a little, quarantine life, Easter.
Take it. All right.
Cool. Well,
all right.
Thanks for watching, and make sure you guys like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Hit the little bell for Facebook so when we go live, you see us.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to play this.
Adios.
See you.
Bye.